That lad over there, do you see? The one sat down in the shade of the tree, and he's not exactly busy, but he's not exactly free. And the reason he is sitting is because he is a student who is waiting by his teacher's house. The teacher is still in it, but he's due out any minute. This teenager knows to respect those around. His feet stay quite firmly down on the ground, but he's not quite ordinary, though none would say scary. Both the kids and the grown-ups, all of them know this young man is certainly bright and in no way slow. And he is favoured by them all, the rich, the poor, the tall and the small. He's like a kind of quiet king in training. And then suddenly, with a burst of purpose, energy and noise, the teacher comes careering through the door and strides away. There's a kind of dismay on the boy's face. "I thought we had a lesson today," he called out, running to catch up, head spinning. "We do," cried the teacher. "Keep up, son." And he strode on, grinning. 30 minutes later, still going at an unrelenting pace, this cheerful lad is still trotting along in the sunshine, sweat trickling down his face. Eventually, they reach a big rock and stop. The teacher clambers up this boulder until he's at the top and shouts down, "Son, I've got a task for you. Find me half a raindrop." Bright and sunny the weather has been for days on end, not a cloud to be seen. Where would he find a raindrop, let alone a half? It seemed daft. "Hey, son," says the tutor, "you want to be wise." The lad is not distracted. He doesn't want a long, protracted search, so he peers between rocks and grasses, carefully looking, until an hour later the teacher says, "That'll do for now. I'll light a fire for cooking. You've got another quest. Go hunting for a unicorn. Catch it, kill it, bring it here. We'll have it with some wine or beer." Obedient, but puzzled, the lad prepares his weapons, keeping his objections muzzled. Were unicorns even real, he thought? Surely they were mythical, so being sent to catch one was almost inexplicable. Being good with wood, it doesn't take the lad too long. Quietly singing a song, he creates 2 simple spears, and is almost out of earshot when he hears his teacher calling from the boulder. He turns around, his weapons on his shoulder, and returns. "Never mind the unicorn," was the comment when they reunited. The sun was getting low, and back home, fires would be ignited. As they walked more steadily home, they talked. "You want to be wise," said the teacher. "So why did you send me looking for half a raindrop and a unicorn? In the end, I found it quite confusing and not particularly amusing." "You were never going to find them," whispered the teacher. "And you want to be wise, but you don't know how to find that prize. The search for the unicorn would have left you worn out, and tracing the raindrop would have made you want to stop. So if you want to find wisdom, where do you start? Do you rally your friends and gather up spears and go chasing anything wise that appears?" He looked at the boy. They both stopped on the path. "I've learned how not to catch wisdom today," said the boy, with a smile returning. "I went to learn it's a different kind of search, less like a journey into the wild." "Yes," said the teacher. "And no," he added. The boy's cheerful face went a slight shade of sad, and they walked on. It was a few minutes before they talked on. "You, my lad, are destined for great things. People will look up to you, peasants and kings. But you want to be wise, whether you think so or not. Wisdom is worth more than a lottery jackpot. There's more to wisdom than gold-crusted riches, than silver-stuffed chests or ruby-riddled ditches. Wisdom is honour. Wisdom is peace. Wisdom is life like it's growing on trees." "Slow down," said the student. all muddled and weary. His eyes felt bleary and his head was befuddled. It sounds very grand, the way that you put it, and it sounds as if everyone ought to be after it. That is quite true, said the teacher, eyes glinting. The thing is, it's precious, but misunderstood. You could end up miserable, peering and squinting at dusty old writings or sprinting off madly to chase some great myth. Those things are like mists. You'd be better off setting a trap for a cloud. This lad had been learning for year after year. Accepting instruction and clear education, he'd heard the great Proverbs, he'd listened to sayings. Now he could recite them, for at least about 2/3 of them. But wisdom itself had seemed almost unreachable, while everything else was totally teachable. Sorry to sound a bit daft, the boy said. Am I best to chase wisdom or better off dead? Let me explain, said the teacher, so shrewd. Don't get me wrong, wisdom should be pursued. One thing about wisdom, it can be accrued, but doing so doesn't mean cracking a code. You don't find it sourced down some magical road. They stopped again, reaching the teacher's front door. There's a crucial thing here you should never ignore. That wisdom was used when our God made the world, when mountains were brought up and green hills unfurled, in rivers first flowing and tall trees first growing. When sheep were first bleating and goats were first eating, it was vital for putting his people together with bones and with blood and emotions that flood and with minds that can learn to be clever. God worked with wisdom in all his creation and made it available to each one of us like an open-ended donation. But we have to pursue it because wisdom is not just a cleverness system. It's a gift and a tool and a stool for standing on. It can give you insight, it can give you awareness, and true wisdom is cherished so much for its rareness. The student stood very still, aware that understanding was beginning to dawn. He feared to move in case the moment disappeared. He stopped for a while, standing still on the lawn. Okay, he offered after a pause. Wisdom isn't about knowing the laws. It's much more like knowing how to do things well, like not sharing secrets you don't want people to tell, and to learn how kingdom works, think like a king. But I don't think that's everything. Exactly, the teacher replied, which is why we have to remember that right at its heart, all of true wisdom has the knowledge of God at its start. We recognize God knows much better than we do. After all, it's his world and it's him we should look to. What really is wisdom? Asked the lad in hushed tones. He felt like a shiver ran right through his bones. Wisdom, the teacher said, is the possession of knowledge and common sense and of discretion, of good understanding and judgment that's sound, and staying so humble that always you're teachable. Then no one can ever say you are unreachable. It's knowing that you don't have all of the answers. You see, wisdom is very much like country dancers who skip as they move and who weave as they groove, but they only look graceful and move with such style after learning and practicing mile after mile. Their shoes will wear thin and their limbs will get tired, but the effort brings beauty and movements inspired. They put in the training and much preparation. They understand all that they do with each step. So artistic creation, detailed knowledge and common sense merge. Everything fits. No one collides, and all those around can enjoy what emerges. So how do I get it? Asked the student, fascinated. The teacher, all smiles and his cheeks making wrinkles, told his young pupil as his eyes gave a twinkle, anyone can reach it, not just the smartest. It's for the artisan and for the artist, the least and the first, the latest and greatest. Listen with patience to every advisor. Read and study as if it's all brain fertilizer. Cherish understanding. It's a fear tranquilizer. Value experience, a great emotional stabilizer. Just keep going after it. Never give up. And treat it like a pretty girl who you know will live up to all that you ever could hope she would be. And then still keep on like you're climbing some fabulous tree. It's the simplest quest, but it's the hardest of all. The journey is longer than a great Chinese wall, but finding wisdom is not just for you. It brings joy and peace to your neighbour too. So keep looking for wisdom, son. Keep it in sight. And with a flourish, he wished his young charge a good night.